Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so today we have Alliance War ASR going up against APOCO. And APOCO have been doing extremely well this season, and as we all know, ASR actually haven't had the best season, neither has Kenobi, and there have been a lot of surprising wars to a point where maybe it's not necessarily more fun. The war, it definitely has become a lot more unpredictable, and that in itself is quite a bit interesting. Ultimately, I do kind of have to admit I'm not really the biggest fan of Protect Force, I think, over Stubborn Wars. But anyways, we're gonna get to that. Due to us having maybe not the best season, uh, the morale level overall towards AW in ASR currently is not really quite the best. I think a large portion of the alliance is just kind of waiting for season to be over to have like a fresh next season and see how that goes and do better there. Because at this point, obviously, top 3 is not happening. We're gonna end up somewhere in Masters, so these last 3 wars don't really decide all that much for us as an alliance, so it's kind of hard to get people motivated. You can see even here based on my boosts, I typically for these wars always apply like medium to big boosts even at start, and now I'm just like, nah, 10% is good enough. I know I won't die, and if I apply smaller boosts, maybe I'll save myself a potion because I'm running Suicide Masteries, which I would have probably otherwise just taken off, but I'm currently grinding for a featured champion. I was like, yeah, nah, I'm just gonna go with Suicide Masteries, throw in a potion in Quake, and be done with that. So I'm on path 1 in section 1 and in section 2 for this war. I have returned to my original kind of like most common paths, and the first fight here is Dormammu, and obviously I could have brought in Torch as well very easily, or even Doctor Doom if I think about it, but obviously it's Quake, so I'm gonna go with Quake. I know it's not the most exciting fight to watch, unfortunately, but uh, for me personally, it is pretty much the safest way how to do Alliance war fights. Right, next up we have Thor Ragnarok on Masochism, and this fight actually does last quite a bit longer. And I was always meant to use Quake, and this was also another reason why I wanted to keep Suicide Masteries active, because due to Masochism, you kind of have to compete with that Masochism region. And yes, you can shut it off if you time it all well, but whether you're able to do that entirely depends on opponent's AI, so it's kind of like whether you get lucky or not. Like here, we could see that he was striking me at the time Masochism would have triggered, and I can't charge concussion, and therefore he did basically heal up. Now, he didn't because I was able to charge heavy attack at the time Masochism would trigger. So it's always kind of like a bit of a game of luck, I suppose. But if you have Suicide Masteries active, obviously Quake deals a lot more damage, and you can ultimately still outdamage the Masochism even if you get extremely unlucky. And they have class disadvantage in this fight as well. But yeah, so 1 minute in here, Thor's down to 31%. I think I'm gonna have actually a tiny bit of a hard time finishing this fight off, because I got very lucky several times in a row here, and that's about to change, and then I'm gonna trigger that Masochism multiple times. You can see that I did trigger it now. He did go down a bit in health, he's at 12%, but again, I think I'm gonna trigger it next time as well. So the very final stretch is actually kind of like a bit tricky, a bit annoying. You can see I trigger it, he goes down to like 3%, he's still not dead. But at least at this point I know that the next set of Aftershocks will in fact finish off this fight. And there we go. It sticks, and it's quite perfect, quite ideal. So I'm done with this, and initially I didn't want to, but I wasn't really meant to take these next fights, so I just left them for my alliance mates. Then next morning I wake up and these fights were still kind of like, well, not done. And this is again another perfect example of kind of like, normally everybody in ASR is kind of like fighting who gets to take the joint fights, and I'm annoyed when somebody takes a fight that I could have potentially taken and stuff like that. And everybody tries to get in as many fights as possible. And now in this war, it definitely seemed like everybody pretty much is a bit emotionally kind of checked out of the season, and nobody really wanted to do the fights that they didn't have to. myself included to a degree. Honestly, I wasn't as kind of like focused on war, and it was just something that's happening in background. It's a very different state of mind to be in compared to how we normally are, where you check what's happening in war every half an hour and check who's doing what and stuff like that. So yeah, need to get through the last wars of the season, and after that, hopefully next season we can do the best we can and make our way back to top 3. I think out of 6 or 7 seasons I have been in ASR, I think this is gonna be 7th season, possibly. Uh, Before this, we only once we didn't make it to top 3, so this is definitely not kind of like place where ASR as an alliance likes to be. Ever since I joined here, almost always ASR has made it into top 3 in alliance war, and then it doesn't feel too great. But again, hopefully we can pick it up next season. So I did quickly quake that Namor, not a big problem there. And I do have one more Quake fight. Here is Sasquatch. Why not, right? I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to speed this one up because I'm sure that not all of you enjoy watching Quake. And it's a very easy but relatively lengthy fight. It's going on for 2 minutes, 2 minutes something here. Basically nearly 2.5 minutes for that fight. And but still, no real problem. And then I have Mephisto. And for Mephisto, I'm just going to bring in Human Torch with a pre-fight active, and then obviously the Mephisto is going to absolutely melt it down. I think at this point in war it was also quite clear that we will be losing, because we did start very well. We did basically keep the score tied and that like one death for a big while, but then in the next morning when I woke up, I think we were at like 4 deaths and less exploration, and they were at like 2 deaths and more explored. So it did look like that we're gonna be losing this war, unfortunately, as well. And that's another thing, that it is so important to have the right kind of like morale going on in your alliance. And if you don't, then the mistakes and then the death will follow, because all of that works together. If you lose a bit of your confidence, if you maybe don't care as much, don't boost as much, all of that always adds together and basically ends up costing you the war. Those are the tiniest differences why some alliances win more often and why some don't. It's not always necessarily down to how skillful each player is or how big each player's account is. It always comes down to kind of how hard you try and how focused you are on these fights. And then here we can see again, I'm just gonna go in with Quake. I think for a second war in a row, I'm bringing in rank 3 6-star Dr. Doom and not using him, but hey, you know, Quake can do it all. I could have Quake that Mephisto as well. I just wanted to switch it up and give Human Torch something to do. But yeah, this one's also gonna be quite easy. I'm gonna make a mistake here. I get hit, and actually that scared me because that Hulk hits very hard, right? When he triggers those rage attacks, you take a lot of damage from a combo. And then after that, it's fine. I'm just gonna do this fight a bit more and speed up as well. So Quake's doing everything absolutely wonderful. And here's gonna be an interesting interaction with Quake. And the reason why I often like to just parry everything from Man-Thing, let's pay attention here, because I didn't realize it could potentially work like that. It's definitely not a very common thing for it to happen. Let's see, I'm going to be triggering Dexterity, and I'm going to be triggering the Buffet node. So, I'm going to have my Dexterity nullified due to Buffet, but that also triggered Man-Thing's ability to put a poison on me, an armor break, which I did not know works that way. So I immediately end up with having a poison and armor break on me and losing quite a bit more health than I would like. But it's fine, because at this point I do have precision already active. Poison has run its course. I'm still alive, and yeah, I can just finish off the fight. But this is a good example why often it is a good idea maybe to just fully parry every Man-Thing's attack and never trigger that precision in the first place, especially if there is a buffet node involved. But yeah, this interaction definitely surprised me. And yeah, this is also like the last fight for me in the war. I didn't do any more fights. Only 6 fights this war, so nothing too special. And as I said before, ultimately we did end up losing this war. We are quite comfortably in somewhere in the middle of the Masters bracket, and yeah, that is where we're basically gonna end up this season. I, as promised before, will upload every war and everything that I am up to. But yeah, this season definitely hasn't been the greatest for our lines. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, then do hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the good buttons, and I will catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about